was achieved through the wars Israel pushed the U.S. into, the genocide it committed, and the manner in which criticism of Israel has been punished, but it's backfiring massively.
So Hasan Piker just dropped the most vindicated take in political media history. While he faced years of attacks for criticizing Israel, new polling shows he was reading the room perfectly. Americans have turned decisively against Israel across every demographic. Let's break down these stunning numbers.
Now, this is also part of the reason why I feel unbelievably confident in my position, not only because it is a position that is born out of truth, it is the morally righteous position, but also it's a position shared by many people, okay? More people in the United States of America than ever before.
That confidence is completely justified. While mainstream outlets spent 2 years calling him anti-Semitic for opposing genocide, public opinion shifted exactly where he predicted. Fox News attacked him daily, but the data proves he was ahead of the curve, not behind it.
This is why Fox News can chirp about, whatever I'm saying all day, every day. But the reality of the matter is we are living in a very different information environment. We're living in a very different environment where the attitude against Israel is only getting worse every single day.
This information shift is massive. Traditional media gatekeepers who controlled Israel discourse for decades are watching their influence collapse in real time. Social media and independent outlets broke their monopoly on narrative control, and there's no going back.
They have very much shifted away from Israel. Look at this. Net favorability of Israel among men under the age of 50. In 2022, not too bad, but not too hot to trot either at -3 points. By 2025, again, down we go, -22 points.
Men under 50 swinging Trump's way in 2024, while simultaneously turning against Israel, creates a nightmare scenario for Republican strategists. They gained these voters on economic issues, but inherited a demographic that rejects their foreign policy orthodoxy completely.
Look at this for Israel. -47 points. That's a 44-point shift away from Israel on the net favorability amongst young men who, of course, shifted massively into the Republican column back in 2024, and they have been shifting away from Israel over the last 4 years.
Young men shifted 44 points against Israel while moving toward Republicans. That's a political earthquake. Both parties now face coalitions fundamentally opposed to their foreign policy establishments. This forces impossible choices in future campaigns.
And there's obviously still more room to grow, right? There's still more room to grow. You already know my position on this, We're not hating hard enough.
These aren't ceiling numbers either. Gen Z and younger millennials haven't fully entered polling yet, and they're even more opposed to Israeli policy. The trajectory points toward complete collapse of American support within a decade.
Nathan J. Robinson says, Israel doesn't care about losing public opinion as long as it maintains political support. The crucial thing is to translate the shift in public sentiment into meaningful change in U.S. policy. Also correct.
Hey there, I'm Harry Enton, and today we are running all the numbers.
Oh, there's even more numbers. Nice. This is my favorite. I feel so proud when I see these numbers.
Here's the crucial disconnect Robinson identifies. AIPAC still controls policy through campaign contributions and lobbying, despite losing public support. This creates the exact Democratic deficit that's radicalizing voters against the entire political establishment.
You may know him, Thomas Massie. He, of course, is the representative from Kentucky's 4th District. He has been opposed by Donald Trump. Donald Trump has endorsed his opponent. Pro-Israel voices are also opposed. Many of them have also opposed Thomas Massie. But at this point, look at this. His chance of being the Republican nominee, winning that Republican primary in Kentucky's 4th District, is actually more likely than not to occur.
Thomas Massie represents something seismic, a Trump-opposed Republican winning on an anti-Israel platform. He's positioned to defeat Trump's endorsed candidate precisely because Kentucky voters prioritize opposing foreign aid over party loyalty. That terrifies establishment Republicans.
By 2025, -30 points. That's a 33-point shift in just 3 years' time. You think that's a big shift? How about now? Look at this. Among moderate conservative Democrats, the net favor of Israel down into the Sea of Galilee at -55 points.
Conservative Democrats hitting -55 destroys the narrative that this is just progressive activism. These are Biden's most reliable voters, the people who defended every other administration position, and they've completely abandoned Israel. That's institutional collapse.
That's the bulwark audience. That's why I wasn't stressing when everyone was on my ass, and I'm still not stressing it. It's over. You can come after me all day, every day, but you can't change these numbers.
The bulwark represents never Trump Republicans and centrist Democrats, the exact coalition that defended endless Middle East wars. When even they turn against Israel, it signals complete bipartisan consensus collapse on foreign policy fundamentals.
What's really interesting about this, of course, is that these percentages are brought up on CNN, but the media is not representative of this attitude at all, and neither is our political class. Non-liberal Dems isn't like conservative Dems. Think about that. Major sea change. These percentages are completely untenable with any kind of support for Israel.
CNN presenting these numbers while maintaining pro-Israel editorial positions perfectly captures the disconnect. Media outlets know their audiences oppose their coverage, but corporate and donor pressure prevents them from reflecting actual public sentiment.
For mainstream outlets, maybe you get like 10% anti-Israel sentiment to 90% pro-Israel sentiment. For politicians, you got 10% critics of Israel, 90% supporters of Israel. It doesn't make any sense. And the political class are not representative of the majorities of the masses. I've never seen this much of a divergence, a clear-cut divergence, this big of a gap between what the public feel like and what the media wants the public to feel like.
This represents democracy's complete failure on foreign policy. When 90% of politicians support positions that 60 to 70% of voters oppose, you're looking at oligarchy, not representation. Money talks louder than votes in American politics.
And I don't know why they have not figured out that instead of attacking people like myself, they probably should try and coalesce around people like myself to gain back some confidence, to gain back some credibility on this issue.
Why are we seeing these shifts amongst Democrats, amongst Republicans, at least certain portions of the Republican electorate, and why are we seeing it among younger men who are a big part of Trump's coalition?
The establishment doubles down on attacking critics because acknowledging this shift means admitting their entire Middle East framework was wrong. They'd rather maintain credibility with donors than rebuild trust with voters who've already moved on.
It's because mainstream media and politicians think they can discipline their audience back into a more manageable position. I think one of the problems politically is that even though Democratic voters hate Israel, many don't yet hate Israel enough that it means they won't vote for a pro-Israel candidate otherwise align with. Needs to be more of a wedge issue.
Democratic leadership exploits party loyalty brilliantly here. Voters hate Israel policy but fear Republican victories more, so they tolerate candidates who ignore their foreign policy preferences. It's political hostage-taking disguised as lesser evil voting.
The problem is these resentments are never going to go away. They're only going to keep festering. They're only going to get worse, especially because this is Israel's last opportunity, and therefore they're going to get increasingly more belligerent as they have done more and more insane, more and more ultra-violence in the region.
Israel's acceleration under Trump's second term proves this point perfectly. They're grabbing territory in Syria, expanding settlements, and planning Iran strikes because they know American public support is collapsing, and this might be their last chance.
They freak out. They think all of it is because of anti-Semitism. The smarter Israeli officials, they see these numbers and they're obviously a little worried. They're panicked about it. So what you're seeing as far as like what Israel's doing right now is their last attempt, their last big attempt to acquire as much territory as possible. And therefore, ironically enough, it's just like leading to even further disapproval.
Trump's blank check approach enables this desperation. Israel knows future presidents will face massive public pressure to cut aid, so they're maximizing territorial gains and strategic positioning while they still have unconditional American support backing them.
And the Israeli government sees these numbers, and they recognize that their time is running out. So they're trying to do as much as they can, as much damage as they possibly can, before the funding vehicle runs out. And Israel tries to develop some kind of like self-reliance, focuses more on like their own indigenous manufacturing industry, their weapons industry.
After the Iran attacks last February, Israel's timeline accelerated dramatically. They're racing to eliminate regional threats and secure permanent territorial gains before losing their American funding vehicle. Every month of delay costs them strategic opportunities.
It's fascist, man. It's a fascist society. I don't know how else to explain it. Stop trying to make sense of it. Okay, they're insane.
The fascist characterization fits perfectly with polling data. Americans are recognizing that Israel's political system produces policies that contradict basic democratic values, which explains why support collapses once people see the reality behind media narratives.
Israel has become a four-letter word in Democratic primaries. And one way you can see that is AIPAC, right? AIPAC, the lobbying group. Google searches for AIPAC in 2026, up like a rocket, up 363% versus last year, reached an all-time high last month.
AIPAC's increased visibility destroys their historical effectiveness. They operated best in shadows, but social media exposed their primary spending and foreign influence operations. Sunlight kills lobbying power. Voters reject what they can actually see.
For the longest time, the reason why China has maintained good trade relations and good relations overall with Israel is because Israel gets the latest technology from the United States of America, and maybe sometimes the latest technology that no one else gets, except China gets to have some of that technology because Israel gives China some of that technology, at least to my understanding. So if America and Israel's relationship is broken and changed in an irreparable manner, then China doesn't have much utility for Israel.
China's relationship with Israel always depended on accessing American military technology through Israeli transfers. If U.S.-Israel relations crater, China loses that intelligence pipeline and has no strategic reason to maintain ties with an isolated regional power.
This is, again, and I keep repeating this over and over again, but like, this is why I don't mind when people are like, oh, dude, you're anti-Israel. It's like, yeah, so is everybody else, dumbass. Wake the f up. On what basis are you talking about U.S.-Israel relationship breaking?
The polling proves exactly that point. Being anti-Israel is now the mainstream American position across demographics. His critics represent a shrinking minority desperately defending an unpopular status quo while calling the majority extremist.
I think America and Israel's relationship will forever change. I don't think America can steadily funnel all of its resources, all of its tech, move its naval assets with ease in the way that Donald Trump did ever again. If we were somewhat competent, Israel would become a partisan issue, but
even under Trump's second term, congressional pressure is building to condition aid. Future presidents will inherit constituencies that overwhelmingly oppose current Israel policy, making unconditional support politically impossible regardless of party control.
There is a reason why I feel confident whenever I get attacked on this issue, partially because I was attacked on this issue with heinous smears for the last 2.5 years, and there was limited success. But especially now, I know for a fact that the overwhelming majority public opinion is on my side on this issue. So they can keep chirping and complaining over and over again, but it's over. The conversation is done. Now is the time for action.
This represents complete vindication after years of character assassination. The numbers don't lie. He read American public opinion correctly while media and political establishments completely misunderstood their own audiences. The conversation has shifted permanently.
Well, she did that because the Italian population has been unbelievably angry and showcasing how much power they have as well to cause a ruckus, to create instability, to withhold their labor power, their productive power. That's huge. It's massively consequential.
Italy's weapons embargo proves democratic pressure works when properly organized. Italian voters forced Meloni to break with NATO consensus through sustained activism. Americans have the same power. They just need to use it effectively.